Putin was scared. Instead of Alaska, a sharp U-turn. Alaska with Ukraine. The Americans met the Muscovites with protests. Trump's loud statement before the meeting with Putin. What did the US president say? I'll tell you all the details in a moment. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I am Victoria Panchenko. And now the latest events. Russian dictator Putin, before the summit with Trump, did not make it to Alaska. Whether the president of Russia got scared or something else happened, but Vladimir Vladimirovich decided to turn toward Magadan. The official version? In Magadan, Putin will visit an industrial enterprise and meet with the governor, after which he will head to Alaska, where the Russian-American summit will take place. It is also noted that the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lavrov, and the Russian Federation's ambassador to the US, Alexander Darchayev, have already arrived in Alaska. The video shows the plane landing, filmed by journalists from the Kremlin press service in Anchorage. By the way, Putin has reason to be afraid in Alaska because people have taken to the streets to protest against the Russian dictator and to support Ukraine. And US strategic bombers are already circling near Alaska's borders as well. The protest took place in Anchorage, the city hosting the summit. Several hundred people took part in the protest. It is known that another demonstration will also take place on the day of the summit, August 15th. Alaska stands with Ukraine, Russia never again. People are quite concerned about Putin's visit. At the protests against Russia, there were both Ukrainians who had fled the war and Americans. Even residents of Washington came to Alaska.
The protests in Alaska, which had been planned since the beginning of the week, were organized by the Ukrainian community and Americans who support Ukrainians. They prepared and held these protest events and rallies together with the local communities there. I know that several people from Washington also went there in order to communicate with the community. They also involved the media, including Ukrainian media, with the community so that as many people as possible would have the opportunity to express their protest. Right now on your screens, you can see journalist Ostap Yarish, who is currently at the scene. He posted a video on his X account, which you can see on your screens, and there you can see that Alaska stands with Ukraine and Russia never again. We know that Alaska used to be Russian territory, but America bought it, and quite a lot of people in Alaska now support Ukraine. And it's significant that under the Ukrainian asylum program in America, at least 1,000 people, 1,000 Ukrainians, have arrived since the start of the full-scale invasion. They came to Alaska in order to build their new lives there, and the New York Times did extensive interviews with these very people. The people were quite understandably frightened because they were fleeing from Russia. But it so happened that Vladimir Putin is coming to Alaska, and in fact, the people residing there are not very happy at all about this unexpected event. However, these diplomatic meetings are supposed to take place. I know. Just before going on air, I analyzed American media, and in fact, the American media reported that the timing of the meeting has already been set. At 11:30 local Alaska time, there will be a one-on-one meeting with interpreters. Later, there will be a lunch with the participating delegations, and after that, a press conference is scheduled. However, whether the press conference will actually take place is still unclear because we know that Trump is unpredictable. Whether Putin will be ready for the press conference is also unknown at this time. Also, according to reports from American media, and not only American, but also propagandist media, they are already on their way. They are already meticulously prepared to comprehensively cover all the significant events and important discussions that will undoubtedly take place as an integral part of this highly anticipated summit. Again, as was already extensively mentioned on air, a very substantial amount of security personnel, specifically the Secret Service, have now arrived in force to diligently ensure that security measures are exceptionally tight and thoroughly implemented throughout the entire town that will be proudly hosting this crucial Trump-Putin summit, if indeed we can accurately refer to it as such. I would also like to add that earlier today, Donald Trump made some statements. Of course, there were many statements related to the summit taking place, and notably Donald Trump expressed hope that an agreement would indeed be reached. He hopes that this summit will be very successful.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
As for Trump's latest statements, there's definitely a lot to think about. Rare earth metals are not important. I'm trying to save lives. That's how the US president commented on media reports that America could offer Russia minerals from Alaska to end the war in Ukraine.
If we resolve the war, we'll be happy. As for rare earth elements, that's not important. I'm trying to save lives.
If the meeting with Putin goes badly, it will end quickly, Trump emphasized. The US president also stated that if the negotiations are successful, quote, "we will achieve peace fairly soon."
If the meeting goes badly, it will end quickly. And if it goes well, we will achieve peace in the near future.
There is a 25% chance that the meeting with Putin will not be successful, Trump believes. The US president stated on Fox News Radio that a meeting with the Russian dictator in Alaska would precede a second meeting at which a peace agreement between Kyiv and Moscow would be concluded. At the same time, he said that both sides would have to compromise on borders, territories, and so on.
This meeting determines the second meeting. The second meeting will be very important because that's where they will make the agreement and...
All right. I don't want to say divide everything, but, that's not a bad term, right? But there will be a compromise regarding borders, territories, and so on. The second meeting will be very, very important. This meeting is decisive. It's like a game of chess. This meeting determines the second meeting, but there is a 25% chance that the meeting will not be successful. Then I will run the country. We have already made America great in half a year, and you will hit them with the consequences, right? And we will hit them with new sanctions. Senate sanctions will come to the forefront. I wouldn't, right? Oh, of course, if it's not resolved, look, we haven't lost a single soldier. No one. But it was a war. If I hadn't intervened, there could have been a third world war. I'm telling you, Biden had no idea what was going on. It was getting like that. Very bad. And at the very least, I calmed it down a lot. I think you'll agree. Much, much more. But they're still losing thousands of soldiers every week. And we have to sort this out.
Trump also suggested that he might invite some European leaders to his meeting with Zelensky and Putin.
Tomorrow we have a meeting with President Putin. I think the meeting will go well, but the second meeting will be more important. We'll meet with Putin, Zelensky, myself, and maybe some European leaders. I don't know if that will be very significant. We'll see what comes of it.
Speaking about the possibility of a second summit involving the presidents of the US, Ukraine, and the Russian dictator, Donald Trump stated that he would not interfere in the negotiations between Volodymyr Zelensky and Putin.
So, Mr. President, you told Zelensky to be ready? You told him to prepare in case there is real progress. I don't want to talk about a second meeting. I don't even want to hint at the possibility of a second meeting. Maybe there will be one, maybe not. So I don't want to talk about it. All right, it's not that important. But it would be convenient to have a good meeting because I will let them negotiate on their own. I won't negotiate for them. I'll let them negotiate themselves.
Trump promised to call Zelensky after his meeting with Putin. The US president added that he still doesn't know where the second meeting will take place. However, the White House has 3 possible locations. He emphasized that the simplest option would be to stay in Alaska.
I'm not sure there will be an immediate ceasefire, but I think it will happen. I'm more interested in a quick peace agreement, a rapid achievement of peace. Depending on the meeting, I will call Zelensky and invite him to wherever we are. I don't know where the second meeting will be, but we have 3 location options, and we're considering staying in Alaska because that would be the simplest. We have long flights, and it's the same for him. A lot of planes are flying when the leaders of Russia, the US, NATO, and so on are traveling.
And the classic line, Putin would have taken over all of Ukraine if Trump hadn't been president.
I think Putin would like to make a deal. If it weren't for me, he would have taken over all of Ukraine.
By the way, the topic of the war in Ukraine will not be the main issue in the negotiations between Trump and Putin in Alaska. This opinion was shared by political commentator and Americanist Yulia Zabelina. The expert emphasizes that the meeting between the US president and the Russian dictator is more necessary for Putin himself as a way out of international isolation, since he wants to lay the groundwork for future bilateral relations with Washington rather than to resolve the issue of the war in Ukraine.
Because he will definitely remember this, and considering that officials will be coming with him, officials who especially these days are in frequent direct contact with us with Ukraine. These include Marco Rubio, JD Vance, and the vice president. That's why I think they will be able to quickly remind him, even if he forgets something. So as you said, finishing off the mammoth. I think that after all, this meeting is primarily needed by Putin himself so that he can finally break out of this international isolation. For him, this will be, it will be a very powerful and vivid comeback where he will be spoken to as a political subject, essentially as an equal. That's why I think he will actually take advantage of this opportunity, not so much to resolve issues regarding Ukraine, but rather to lay the groundwork for future bilateral relations with the United States. I understand that here in Ukraine, everyone expects that this meeting will be only about the war and only about territories. But I would actually bet on the fact, and considering the composition of the Russian delegation, which will include, among others, Putin's special representative Kirill Dmitriev, who in recent months has practically taken up residence in Washington. He was very active in visiting there, specifically engaging in talks about the potential lifting of sanctions. I would still expect that if there are any, as we like to say, breakthroughs, those breakthroughs will concern their bilateral relations specifically.
And what do you expect from the summit in Alaska? We look forward to your comments. More to come. Stay updated on the main news and hit the like button under the video. Wishing you peaceful skies above.